Hey, good morning, good morning. Hello, hello. Let's get going here. All right. So take control of your 2025. Who's ready? Who's ready out there? Okay, for sure I am. All right, let's get going. All right, we're starting in five, four, three, two. Whoops, whoops. There we go. All right, get going here. So stay with me.
Recording in progress.
Sorry, sorry, sorry. Oh, right. Well, welcome everybody. Let's get going. Okay, so how do we take control of our 2025 distractions? My gosh. We need to, right? The world is full of distractions, right? So who are our distractors? Who's guilty of this? Well, companies pay people, right? This is marketing, this is sales, this people, knocking on our doors, coming in our DMs, in our emails. They are distracting us to try to, get their product in front of us, to form a relationship with us, so that we have loyalty toward their product, right? And so there are people that are hired to do this. This is their full job. And that's okay. That's what they're doing. So we just have to be aware of that. And I like to focus on the neuroscience of focus and distractions and professional well-being and how can we unite and we can leave with clarity after we just make a few things very clear. I like to use a bucket approach, put things into buckets. If they don't fit, we say no to them, right? So we'll go into that a little bit as well. So let's jump in. We're going to talk about the neuroscience of finding our focus as professional women because there are people who are trying to take it. And they're very good at it. And so if you look at, like, for example, the phone has a neuroscience of they know our psychology, they know the neuroscience, what dopamine likes, what our brain, what turns on our dopamine or increases our dopamine is, colors and things that are changing. And so we see that on the phone, right? So if you're on Instagram, maybe I've also been guilty of this, is being on the phone and looking up crafts or something like this for the holidays. And let's say, for example, 100% this has happened. And then an hour goes by, and because I realize I've been fed more and more of these things that I've been looking up. And they're fun and they're colorful and they're unique and they're interesting for a while, but then my brain just becomes like numb, just like what's been studied with slot machines. And so, what we've learned about slot machines over the years, they've used all of that in our phones, and just taken it over there so that we get stuck. And there's a certain feeling when you're stuck on their phone, isn't there? I don't know. It's a numbness. It's not a pleasant, it's a numb. I don't know. You could put it in the chat. So put in the chat if you've ever been stuck on your phone. If you've ever just like had an hour go by and you're like, where the heck did that go? Right. Well, the researchers show us, and I'll find a book for you. Maybe, maybe. And before you go, oh, here it is. It's ripped up. It's well loved, because I really do find this research interesting. It's called The Myths of Happiness by Dr. Sonia Lubomirsky. I heard her speak at Cleveland Clinic. She's a really interesting psychology researcher who's looked into the myths related to happiness. And the myths go on. She says her quote is nearly all of us have bought into the myths of happiness. And that's pretty sad that we have because it changes our lives, right? So we need to know the true science behind these things. And distractions, she's very clear. Distractions absolutely, will take our happiness. So we need to know that for sure, 100%. So she has that and many other conclusions. So I highly recommend reading her book called The Myths of Happiness. She has many books actually, and her research. If you just want to read her manuscripts, get right down to it. Okay, so today is for busy women leaders. Today's the day. Let's build these long-lasting solutions. We all talk about, sustainability. Really, I don't need something that works just a day because, I've been in my career for 30 years. I need something that lasts. I can't, one day is great, but I need to have something that I can use most days or throughout my week, so that it's sustainable. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about long-lasting solutions. We're here to learn. Nothing's wrong. You're not bad. You're not horrible. You didn't miss something. We just like Dr. Lubomirsky said, is we have bought into these myths because they are talked about so often. They are all through the literature, they're all through social media. So we have to dig through and find the real gems and just go ahead with those. And you're rock stars. You're doing amazing things. You're changing the world. But a lot of us are tired. We're toast, just like this picture here, a little crispy. So it's been a long time. We've been through pandemics and all kind of things, post-pandemics and political upheavals, here and globally, and there's a lot of challenges. So everybody's a little tired, even though it's the beginning of the year. So this webinar is for busy leaders. You want to help others, you want to matter, you want to feel creative, you want to acknowledge that yes, you've learned a lot of things, you have a lot of degrees, but you want to keep growing. You want to make sure that what you're doing throughout your days, through your weeks, through your months matter. And they're important to you and they mean something to you. So we all want meaning. We all want to feel supported and we want to make sure we have a safe community to grow in and to live in. We need that security, right? But we also want to leave an impact. We want to make sure that we have meaning in our work. So we are going to talk about challenges that we may run into on this journey. And how can we have a clear path to focus on what matters to us? And that may change over time. What mattered when you were 20 may not matter when you're 30, may not matter when you're 40, may not matter when you're late 50s, like someone else. I know myself. Okay, so I built a framework to help us navigate a busy career, and feel empowered and find where we have control and energy and efficiency in our own lives. There's a lot of things we can't control, but why not focus on what we can? Because that's where the real joy and meaning are. When we live truly in our joy, our purpose, our meaning professionally. Okay, so organizational culture. This is from Shine's model of organizational culture. Now, I work in healthcare. I'm a neuroimmunologist. So we'll see that the top level, the white of the iceberg, anyone been to Alaska? You could put in the comments, been to Alaska? Um, the top of, the glaciers, it's very clear. You see the glaciers. In healthcare, you usually know when you're in a building that's healthcare, right? You see stethoscopes, you see white coats, you might see people in wheelchairs and gurneys, the beds with the wheels. You might just go to an office and take your clothes off. That's not usually what you do in a bank, or in a realtor's office. And so there's certain things that happen in healthcare, and put a gown on, of course. Um, there's certain things that happen in healthcare that you see, certain behaviors. People may ask you very personal questions the first time they meet you. That's what I do when I meet somebody. I'm a neuroimmunologist. I ask people history. So I ask them very personal history. But that's okay because it's that norm. It's the norm of that. So the white is like the artifacts, the things we see, the behaviors of people. And then what are the norms for that? That's under the water, but we usually it's pretty easy to find. We know the norms of healthcare typically. Some things are unusual in healthcare that we are a little bit, it's a little surprising, what they ask you to do. But that's a healthcare norm. And in banking may have their own norm, and real estate may have their own norm, architecture may have their own norms. And then the values, of course, values are for health and for well living and quality of life and honesty and innovation. And so that may be the norm, the value of healthcare. But then you go way low and you say, what are the assumptions and belief of this, of where I work? And unfortunately, gender inequity, racial inequities persist at a high level, unfortunately. And there's certain beliefs and they're way underwater, just like this model shows. So sometimes it's hard to put your finger on it, right? You have to look and you have to dig around and figure it out, kind of like this muddy water. So if you're the beautiful lotus flower above the water, the beautiful pink, but we all are in this culture of the muddy water, what's underneath? What are the things we believe? As women, we are raised to believe a lot of times the messages either they're said or their actions show, be quiet, don't push the norm. Those are the social or societal, the cultural norms, way deep, right under the water. So, but there's good stuff in that water too, right? There's nutrients, there's other plants, there's animals, there's other good things happening under that culture. So we have to know what's there, what is feeding us, what is nourishing us, what is helping us flourish, what is not. So in medicine, this is a study from 2019. So this was even before COVID. And in my area in neurology, 42% of the women docs were saying, women neurologists were saying they had symptoms of burnout and they didn't have time to do their work. 56% didn't have time for their work. And they had high stress environments. They didn't feel like they had control, and they were reporting gender discrimination in the workplace. But yet they were doing great work, just like these beautiful flowers on the lower right. They were blooming, they were flourishing, they were helping their patients to flourish and bloom. They were providing the preventative care, they were coordinating and reaching those deep relationships with the patients, patient-centered communication, spending time with the patients, and the patients appreciated it. So they were flowering and blooming, even in that environment. So does this sound like you that, you used to go to work thinking, I'm so lucky to have this job, but now you're thinking like, oh, how am I going to get by this week? How am I going to get by this day, this next hour? You hoped for more and you feel stuck. So this is what, we're going to do in this webinar. Welcome, welcome. But, in healthcare, I'll say work is exhausting and it can carry a risk of burnout and suicide. Unfortunately, in women docs, like 4 times the risk of suicide. And unfortunately, that has happened even in our trainees. So we need to work to support our families and have that impact in our communities that have so many needs. So how are women navigating the workplace? A lot of folks are thinking like, I'm going to build my own side hustle. Like I built Brain Fresh. And Carla, it's nice to see you. I hope I get to see you at ROI. Um, so side hustles are sometimes the answer. Some people see that's the answer. Let me build my own thing, my own work from home thing, and I'll have flexibility. So put in the comment, yes, if you found like, yes, I'm going to have a side hustle, that's going to be my answer to things. I'll look at my chat here. Yeah. Oh, yes. Good, good, good. Yes, I look forward to seeing you at ROI too. We did a YouTube live. That'll be fun to do that again. And then unfortunately, there's books, and this is a wonderful book. I highly recommend it called Fair Shake. It's a book with a lot of cases of women that are trying to fight and build their culture or change their culture in their workplace and bringing up when things are not going well or when there's even illegal things going on in the workplace. And the women tend to pay the price even if they bring it to leadership and not supposed to have any kind of retribution, but unfortunately if it's brought especially to the courtroom, women tend to lose and they tend to pay the price professionally. And so, and in this book, they're saying that this is written by a few law professors saying that, it looks like women have stalled. Women are in this management position and the gender wage gap is stuck and stalled even since the 90s. And so a little improvement since that time, which is unfortunate. And in medicine, we hear a lot about burnout. Burnout is truly a work condition, even though some of us will say it in the home, we'll say, like burned out from being, you'll hear this, I'm burned out with my teenagers, or I'm burned out with something. I don't have any teenagers anymore, but people use that word burnout loosely, but truly burnout started as a work definition and it was related to the work environment. And who knows what year burnout was first reported. You could put it in the chat. It was after I was born, but pretty darn close. So if you can guess how old I am. 1974. Can you believe it? So we've been talking about burnout for a long time, and it's not new. It's not news at all. And the problem is, we can feel overwhelmed, confused, not making time for family or friends, and not having confidence or saying, like, this is important to me, and these are my priorities, and feel like you're floundering. That can happen because we're sometimes trying to fit on other people's paths. And I didn't really learn that work can help us feel important and useful. It can have positive effects on the brain, but it also can have negative effects like that burnout, that syndrome of burnout that can have negative brain effects as far as emotional wellness, etc. I also didn't learn that when we want to learn, we need to give our brain more support. And I think we need to say that over and over to all our different level learners that when you want to learn, you can't just do your normal thing as far as nutrition and sleep and self kind of boosting activities because the brain is already busy. It's already managing our whole body. We talk a lot about psychological safety, but it also is the organ that's managing our heart and lungs and everything else. And so if we also want to learn, like some of us on the call are headed to an event in a few weeks to learn, and there's going to be a lot of activity physically and cognitively because there's amazing speakers that will be coming up and a lot of interaction with really neat, impact-driven folks. So we actually need to give ourselves extra care before we go and while we're there if we want to soak this in because the brain is already busy. And so we need to drive our own professional growth with nourishing and flourishing of our own neuroscience. So once we jump into this, we're going to talk about how to feel less stuck, less confused, less disorganized, less frustrated, and instead feel empowered. There's a word called self-efficacy. It's like we know what to do. We know we can find the resources if we don't have them. We want to feel informed, enthusiastic, brave, and courageous. Courageous doesn't mean we're not afraid, but we also want to feel valued. We want to feel that our work has meaning. Um, I really do feel that we ought to be able to build a beautiful life and have meaningful work, both, not one or the other. And sometimes it's just intimidating or embarrassing to have to go ask people for help to set up this complicated well-being plan to avoid burnout and in healthcare, a high suicide risk for women docs. It's something that we already have degrees and we've done a lot of things. Do we also have to set this sustainable well-being up? Well, who am I anywhere to share? Anyways, to share all this with you. Dr. Mary Rensel, I'm a business coach, a business owner, keynote speaker, a mom of four. My kids are sprinkled through here. My husband Bob's in the picture too. I love working with corporate. I love working with academic settings to do keynotes and workshops and share actionable neuroscience so people can find joy in the workplace. And that's just a little bit more about me. Okay, so let's talk about those 10 challenges. I really want to make sure that you know that you can feel empowered and creative. And if we just focused on what our brain needs to live fully in our gifts, we can get there. But there are some main themes, like we talked about the culture, things that we've learned in our society. Some of these challenges have some main themes. And so one is gender inequities, limited business training. So in medical school, I'll speak from my background. We don't take one business course. But yet a lot of people with business courses are kind of dictating our schedules and our training and our day-to-day lives, talking to us about, budgets, et cetera, but we've never had any training in any of that. So I personally changed that. I went out and learned that myself, but some people just don't have any background in that, so it's hard for us to navigate that field. And there's always a balancing act between work and home, and of course, people have multiple generations in the home, like Carla does. Okay. And then these societal factors, this culture, that these unwritten messages that we hear about being quiet, don't disrupt, don't innovate. That's maybe more for the men. The men are the leaders. People, there's a bias. We all have these, either unconscious bias or known biases about race, gender, inequities. Um, and so the 10 challenges we may face as we navigate this and we try to put these systems into place for sustainable well-being so we can live in our strengths, we are going to hit some gender disparities, no questions in our opportunities in the workplace. We've never been taught neuroscience strategies for sustainable well-being. So I don't know why, but we haven't. So that's what I like to share. I like to share that in my monthly membership I call WAG. So that's my Women Accountability Group. So we have lots of fun and we, focus on what's important to us and we set our goals and then our weekly or daily tactics so we can make some gains in a supportive, kind, fun environment. But there's no shame and there's no belittling each other in that group. And then the home responsibilities don't tend to be even. My husband took the dog to the vet today and he said, we have to go online and get this thing for the dog. And so he's looking at me to do it. I say, well, are you saying I'm going to do it? And he's, no, I can do it. I can do it. So, it's just like a kind of like, here, you care of things. And that takes mental energy. And again, like we said, anytime we have to do something new, we have to feed our brain and we have new goals, we have to feed and nourish our brain as well. Financial challenges, it's harder for women to get financing. It's harder for women to be in contact with business owners. We're going to change that. We're going to a meeting called ROI. And so that will be full of business leaders at all different levels globally, actually. So that's really neat. And the lack of mentorship. So if there's in my field, there's 100 people there, 80 of them are men. The men are all going out to lunch. The women, it's like we have a smaller group. Maybe we have less leadership, mentorship there. The other thing I see is waiting to be chosen, kind of tapped on the shoulder and say, hey, it's your turn now. So instead, we could say, hey, it's my turn now. I'm going to build a business. That's why I built Brain Fresh. I wanted to build my own, like I say, my party bus and drive it as opposed to waiting to get in other people's path. And then I went to a lot of innovation programs within healthcare, and they were all men, all in suits, the fancy European suits, and a language I wasn't familiar with. That's another reason I went and got business training. And then the culture, we're taught to grind, work, and then relax and have fun when you're retired, which is not a healthy neuroscience way to go through life. And then these societal expectations again for women to be quiet, women to, follow, someone else's paths, and basically put, the family first and work second, which is fine if that's your choice. So let's talk about this neuroscience framework I built. I'd like to talk about brain vitality. How do we stay focused? How do we stay enthused? How do we feel vital? Vital is learning and growing at the same time. So I want to make sure you're rocking it, you're living it, you're owning it. And I love the thought of the lotus flower to help you feel empowered and creative. It's just beautiful. It's just an image that I love. So focus. So how do we focus your powers? So you have this neuroscience power. You have something called a connectome. Your brain is really good at certain things. And surprisingly, to put your brain in a good, innovative, creative place, you have to have more, we have to have fun in our lives because fun is a great neurologic state. So we're going to talk about three things we can do to focus our neural powers. We can protect your melon. So a lot of people call, our brain our melon. And the way to do that is to think about it as a beautiful, I like to think of it as a garden. How do we protect it? Who do we let in? How do we nourish it? How do we let it flourish? What are we growing? And a lot of times it's blocking things. It's the distractions we need to keep out because that will harm it. It's almost like if you took your house and you opened every door and window and you let anyone in, all those distractions is not healthy for the house, right? It's not healthy for your family to open everything. And that's unfortunately what's happening a lot in with social media these days. And then there's little tricks where we can micro burst our energy throughout the day, burst our focus. And so there's ways to fine tune our energy all through the day. And then how do we find support? How do we support our powers? Again, that nourishment that we all need. How do we build guardrails so we are in this, use this, I like to think the bucket system. Does it go in our three buckets of either focus, support, or impact? And if it doesn't, I say no to it. So how do we build these guardrails, these boundaries? How do we learn about our gifts and strengthen our gifts and believe in belonging? So that means the people around us can either be building us up or knocking us down. So that's really important to keep people around us that we feel we belong to, and we have healthy people around us. Now, there's more things to help us with impact, but just to save time today, I'm going to skip over those. And so when we look at this, we look at focusing our brain, supporting our brain, using our brain for impact. We can talk about which one of these are red, yellow, and green. So when we think of finding fun, if you had to say, if you want to put it in the chat, are you a red, yellow, green with fun? So when you look at your last week, did you intentionally put fun in your week? That would be a green. If you're like, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, that's a yellow. If you're like, oh, I don't really take time for that. I'm busy. I have things going on with the family. I'm a red. So what do you think with fun? Are you a red, yellow, or green? You think what I did fun this week? Well, I went cross-country skiing with a friend yesterday. That was fun. My husband and I had kind of a quiet weekend, which was actually nice. Um, my son was still home from college, so that was fun. And he left yesterday. Red, green. Yeah, nice. Good. So you're green. So you're on break. Good. And that's something to look at. And we need to look and see like what needs attention, what's going well. So protect your melon. So that is, we can jump into this a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit about fun. So why does it matter? Well, days can be busy, we can feel stuck. It actually can help our focus and our control when we add fun to our lives. It can change our moods from negative to positive, and we can intentionally change our emotions. We can impact them with some activities. I have a list of 12 things I can share with you. There's a wonderful book called The Positivity Book by Dr. Barb Fredrickson. And there's a wonderful book about fun if you want to read a whole book about fun and the importance of it, if you need to be convinced. Um, it's written by a reporter who dug into the research about fun. But a lot of people I hear is like, I'm gonna have fun when I'm retired. I'll wait till then. But that's not the right thing because fun is a great neurologic state. It's a no judgment state, which is a really beautiful state. Because so much of our days we're thinking about, we're judging our actions, we're judging our thoughts. But when we have fun, we're distracted from that judgment, which is wonderful. And we're connecting with others. And so it can shift our emotions to positive. When we're in a positive emotional state, we see new perceptions, we see new opportunities. So it's really important to put ourselves intentionally into that state to give us creativity and clarity and focus. So we also want to make sure protect your melon. Why? Because the brain is our essence. I have a few people in my lives, my mother-in-law and my aunt, who are, noticing cognitive problems, and they have awareness of it, which is really so challenging because they're frustrated and they're saddened by it. Sometimes people have dementia and they're not aware, and some people have some areas of dementia and they're aware. And so it's concerning and challenging. And so we want to do everything we can to give our attention and our energy toward that beautiful, if you want to think of the brain like a garden, and protect it and don't let people in that are taking away our happiness because we just talked about positive emotions. When we're in positive emotions, we see new opportunities. We are more creative, more innovative. So we don't want people to steal our attention because that brings us in a more negative mood. And so it's really important to protect our melon, protect that garden, and fortify it because we need it our whole life. And it makes us us, right? It gives us our essence of who we are. What about fine-tuning your energy throughout the day? So these are little micro bursts of energy. And the way to do that is to kind of step back from your busy, focused day and do something like, let's say, gratitude, sit and have a meal, don't eat at the desk. I work in healthcare and the keyboards are all full of crumbs because people eat at their desks. They don't go sit at a table very often. There are some people that do, but so many people are working and eating. And so they never get out of sympathetic. They're just in stress and focus. When we put ourselves in parasympathetic, more rest and relaxation, even if it's a few minutes, some of the researchers, Dr. Boyatzis is one, he has a book called Resident Leader, and he talks about just stepping away for 10 minutes, 3 times a day, because it can recharge our energy, recharge our focus, but we have to have that oscillation in our day. So are you red, yellow, or green on fine tuning your energy through the day? What would you say? You could go ahead and put it in the chat. So do you take a little break throughout your workday or your busy days so that you get to recharge? Yes. All the best. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Yeah. So we want to make sure we're looking at these 9 steps so we can know if we're in the red, yellow, or green. And we can use Brain Wonder to help us focus, to support our brain's amazing abilities, and to leave an impact into our environments, into our communities. So we have gained some insight into culture. We know that Brain Wonder can really help us. And when we're in a high risk profession, we talked about these challenges. We talked about our colleagues who are in emotional distress. So in healthcare, the level of burnout now is over half. Some studies show it's 60%, 70%, and it's contagious. So we have to do things to fortify ourselves when we work in high risk environment. And there is a clear neuroscience framework that helped me and my clients navigate a meaningful career. There are solutions to help us find purpose and meaning professionally. And we can stop waiting to be chosen, instead drive our own professional growth and rock it ourselves. So which one did you like the best? Focusing the brain powers, supporting the brain powers, or using the brain powers for impact? So what should we do next? We have choices, right? You can just leave things how they are, or we can, just we can change, or we can leave things the way they are. Status quo. I personally was not okay with it. That's why I built my business called Brain Fresh. We can focus and change the world with your gifts. It is possible. And the great news is even adults can learn with focus, support, and if they feel they can leave an impact. So if we feel like we have meaning in our work, we will keep attention toward it, right? So these two studies show that using emotional intelligence, using skill building, these are things um, that will help us sustain our improvements. So it has to mean something to us. We have to have some emotions toward it. It has to have meaning. And then we'll stick with the skill building. And so adults can learn and we'll stick with things as long as it's meaningful to us. So it's really important to stop and realize what's meaningful to you. Why do I do this? Why did I build Brain Fresh? Why do I run WAG, my monthly membership? Well, I have been a Girl Scout leader to three different troops because I have three girls. I really believe in girl empowerment, women empowerment. And the reason is there's so many studies that show when women are fortified, the communities are healthier. And I want women to feel that they have all the rights and the innovation and creativity and to feel empowered that they can do it. If they want to build something, I want them to know how to do that and how to learn about the neuroscience so that they know how to navigate it with neuroscience tools. And so today, for attending, you're welcome to use this coupon called STAT to join my monthly membership called WAG. If you want to join next week, for the next week, they use the coupon FUN today. It's a monthly membership. It's for professional busy women. You can jump in today at the 2024 prices and use this QR code here. Get this out of the way. Who's it for? It's for people who feel like life is flying by and you really want focused action with peace of mind, or you feel like you're floundering a little bit, but you want to feel savvy and purpose driven in your daily actions. You feel like you're wasting energy on things that aren't important to you, but you don't want to feel distracted. You want to feel calm and purposeful. And you don't want to feel confused about your weekly plans, your goals. You want to feel confident, like you have smart planning. You don't want to wait for that perfect day, for your schedule to be clear. You want to feel confident and clear on your values and your purpose. You want to leave informed and purposeful, and you want to go from scared to courageous action taker. It's okay if you're still scared, but you're willing to take that action. And that's why I built this monthly membership, because I know that when we work together, we get more done. When we say our goals out loud, we get more done. When we keep supportive, passionate, calm, kind people around us, we get more done. And so I didn't want everyone to have to go find this all by themselves. Just build it and have a monthly membership and come in and we'll do it together. So we'll have action-based sessions. We'll have clarity of our values and our purpose. We'll have exercises to find those out. There'll be monthly resources so you can learn to align with your amazing brain for more energy and meaning at work. Do you want to feel less stuck, or do you want to feel more creative, in control, valued, joyful? Yeah, use the coupon STAT. You get 15% off today if you join WAG today. Use this QR code. And what are the promises? You can read these over. We'll go over some of them, but it feels fun and it feels like you have value when you're building creativity at work and home. You can have insights into your unique values to help you plan your next steps. You can clarify the principles of training that lead to hesitation, but you want to go ahead and have some professional growth. And we can place importance on that kind, compassionate mindset so we can take those courageous actions with support. So we have community in WAG. So go ahead and take a picture of that QR code. That's for WAG. You can check it out. You can build a unique journey and build your unique, beautiful life with a supportive community around you. That's the link there. And then you just watch just check it out on this QR code. If you register, it's a monthly membership. And if you're like, I really also want one-on-one coaching, I'm taking up to 5 people for one-on-one coaching. I'm not going to take a lot because I like to be able to focus. I don't want to feel like there's too many folks. And if you just want the audio version, that's fine. There's an audio only version. If you're like, I can never make those group coaching sessions, forget it. I just want the recordings. Okay, you can have the recordings. And then if you're like, oh, no, no, I like to, meet people and work it out together and have time together. And then, of course, I will have periodic craft sessions once a month because I like the time of just sitting and having fun together. And we'll do that together as well. Okay, so thanks for your attention. I can't wait to see you in WAG, my Women Accountability Group. It's a monthly membership. Any questions, just reach out on thebrainfresh@gmail.com. Thebrainfresh@gmail.com. Okay, you got this. All right, guys. All the best. Okay.